Our next speaker is Dr. V.R. Devika, who is the founder and managing trustee of the Asima Trust, a non-profit organization for linking traditional performing arts and education, and also Mahatma Gandhi and education. She is on the academic council of TNJJ Music and Fine Arts University. Trained in Bharatanatyam classical dance under the Dhananjayans, Dr. Devika has researched and promoted folk forms. The monograph she authored is Muthulakshmi Reddy, a trailblazer in surgery and women's rights, published by Niyogi Books, won the South Asia Ladli Media Award in 2023 for non-fiction. Widely traveled around the world for conferences and lectures. Dr. Devika's latest book is on Rukmini Devi Arunde. Dr. Devika.
I think we can take a 2-minute break. It's going very well. It's last year was on Muthulakshmi Reddy, and this year it is Rukmini Devi Arunde. I am countering the North American scholarship on dance history very strongly, and speaking for why the Devadasi system was abolished by Muthulakshmi Reddy, and what was the connection of the Theosophical Society and Rukmini Devi, and how she did everything spontaneously. And you know, the North American scholarship, dance history scholarship, blames the Theosophical Society for a conspiracy to take away the dance from the Devadasis, which was completely contrary to what happened. So Itihasa has to be looked at differently. And so are we ready, sir?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay. I'm just chatting before that. But I'm so happy when Radha called me again. And so I'm looking forward to reading that book. Because Theosophy and especially the 700-page book written by George Arunde, I sat and read that whole thing. You know, it's quite amazing. And to understand how this marriage happened and what happened afterwards. Because without the foundation that she got from here, she could not have done what she did. And my gurus, the Dhananjayans, they brought me on a tour before you stopped all visitors. Okay? We fought at the gate. I called so many people, and my Shanta and Dhananjayan, Anna, Shantaka, and they brought me to the space where Kalakshetra was founded. And the house where Mysore Vasudevacharya lived and composed the iconic Ramayana series music. We sat there on the Thinnai where he was composing. It is still there. That house is still there, but in ruin. It has to be, revived. It's still there. That house with the Thinnai and the pillars and everything is there. Mysore Vasudevacharya lived and died in that house. And such an iconic person. And then we went and saw the space where the Adyar Theatre first was, and where the Ramayana was premiered. And all those places we went on a small tour, and it was, I'm getting goosebumps even now looking at that, you know. So it was such a fantastic connection to the Theosophical Society, and I'm so thankful to Radha for bringing me here again. I have brought many visitors earlier to see the library, to look at the collection and all that earlier. And are we ready?
Almost.
Not yet. Okay. So, see, I I am a urban city bred girl. I grew up in Mysore, and my parents were not interested in the arts at all. They were interested in science and development. My father said, no, don't take drawing, not music, because it will help in your science subject. You know, so he was like that. He was interested in science. And here I was, the ninth of the 11 children they had, my parents, wanting to go into arts very seriously. That happened only when I turned 24 and came to 20 and came to Madras. And I was 24 when I became a teacher at 20, and Dhananjay's son was my student. And they requested me to come and teach him at home. Can you do private tuition for him? So I said, because you are dancers, I will come. And you have to allow me to sit in the class. So they said, fine. So I would go sit with him, do some lessons and go and sit in the class. Then I said, can I learn? I was 24 then. I said, can I learn Bharatanatyam? Because I want to be a better teacher. I will never do an Arangetram. I will never go on the stage to perform, but I want to learn. They said, okay, this is one different kind of request. I thought if I learned Bharatanatyam, I would become a better storyteller and a better teacher. And going into the class, learning what I was learning, I was transferring everything into my classroom. And I developed a methodology where you could talk about Angika, Vachika, Aharya and Satvika for teaching tools. I used Bharatanatyam learning as a teaching tool, and many schools called me for workshops, etc. And because I went deeply into Natya Shastra and Abhinaya Darpana and all that, and whatever was available for reading on dance, I became a critic. And by fluke always, somebody who saw me speak said, do you write? I said, I'm a Kannada medium graduate. And he said, if you can write as you're speaking, come and see me. He was the editor of the Indian Express. I went and saw him. I became a critic. And in 1988, I began to write for the Hindu. And then one thing to let another. I am an extremely fortunate person because doors kept opening. And one such is standing here. One such door opening. Leave dharma, leave adharma. Leave both truth and untruth. After leaving both truth and untruth, leave that which enabled you to leave them. Then take one last step. Leave the notion that you have left anything at all, says the Mahabharata. Among the large corpus of Hindu religious texts, Vedas, Vedangas, Smritis, Puranas, Dharma Shastra and Itihasa. Itihasa consists of two major epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, as you all know. The Itihasas or the epics are not part of the Shruti tradition. They are part of the Smriti tradition, and they have been recited, heard, memorized and passed through generations. Does a Smriti tradition such as the Mahabharata survive in isolation? Are they not in crossroads being inspired by an inspiring literature and performance rituals? Performance rituals inspire sculpture, and the stories inspire sculptures, and the sculptures inspire performance rituals many times, isn't it? So I am looking at, okay, let's go to the next slide. It's a video. Click on it. Can anyone tell me what this can be? What this is? Not Rajshri. She has seen it. Anybody? What do you think it is? Arjuna? Asuravada. Oh, not really. எந்த அசுரன் மகாபாரதத்துல? ஐயனார். Okay, one clue. If anybody else doesn't come up with a question answer, it is from the Mahabharata, and the villagers are putting something in the right thigh. This is Duryodhana. What happens in a Kuthu tradition? You know, the Silapadakaram says there are 11 types of Kuthu, and Kuthu means play, and there is a big question about the nomenclature for this performing art form, which is either Terukuthu or Kattai Kuthu. Because I will come to that later about the nomenclature, but Terukuthu and Kattai Kuthu is what they say. But it's not street theatre. Because Terukuthu சொன்னதனால people translate it as street theatre. It is a ritualistic spectacle which consists of 3 different parts. One is in the morning, there will be a Kathakalakshepam kind of recitation of the Mahabharata. They are called prasangis. So people who come, the team that is called in, they are Kalakshepa singers. They come in the morning and they sing the story of the Mahabharata just like Harikatha Kalakshepam. They tell the story. They begin Kedai Draupadi because it is for Draupadi that they are performing. And they say, Vanakipri nadandade. This happened for you, like this. And we atone it. We are asking you to forgive us that this happened to you. You know, this happened to you, this happened to you. They keep on saying, Kedai Draupadi. So they sing the story. In the afternoon, the entire village, according to the different castes that are there in the village, they take rituals connected with the story of the Mahabharata. Then different days, you know, a village, when they have a good harvest, they can invite a Kuthu to perform Bharadam, either for 8 days or 10 days or 1 month or 40 days, depending on the financial availability. So sometimes some villages even have only for 3 nights, 3 days. But 40 days every person in the village becomes a part of the Mahabharata. They all tie kankanam, yellow thread, and they become the part of the Mahabharata. And it's a ritualistic, devotional, fervor drama that is happening. In the night, all night, the Kuthu group performs an episode of the Mahabharata. All night. They begin at 10 o'clock in the night and end with the rising of the sun. And during the day, they are busy doing the rituals and all that. Okay? So, on the last day, when Duryodhana is hiding in a well, in the water, Bhima comes on the stage and is taunting him. In Kannada, Kumaravyasa writes, Neerolagirthum Bevardhan Uragapatakan. Uragapataka, the snake flag bearer, that is Duryodhana, was sweating even in the water because of the kind of taunt that Bhima is coming up with. So he comes out. When he comes out, Krishna says, we will leave it to the people. Okay? Let the people take over. And around 10 o'clock in the morning, so the drama finishes there in the last night. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, they come to this statue that the villagers have erected. Through the village they come, Bhima and Duryodhana, they fight through the village in front of every home, and the boys of the village become either Kaurava's side or Pandava's side. and they go all throughout the village they go, and then finally come here. And here the villagers take over the killing of Duryodhana, and then they do an opari. You could have been such a good king. All you had to do was share. That's all. Krishna asked you for 5 villages. You could have given. They do an opari. The whole village does an opari. This is happening in over 400 villages, just 40 kilometers from here. Even inside Chennai, it happens. You know, the city of Madras has grown over ancient settlements from Fort St. George. There are many ancient settlements within. So you may find in, one day I saw it, Kotur, there was a Padikulam happening. You know, so things are happening even within Chennai, but now with the space constraints in front of Mariamman or Draupadi Amman temple. Northern Madras, northern Tamil Nadu villages, southern Andhra and western Karnataka villages, eastern Karnataka villages have a Draupadi Amman temple or a Dharmaraja temple. In front of that temple, this happens. So the classics of all civilizations have, in one way or another, relevance to modern life, but none more than the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is the most systematic inquiry into the human condition. The concerns of the Mahabharata are the concerns of everyday life, of dharma, artha, kama and moksha. And I have read Chaturvedi Badrinath quite a lot. His inquiry, the Mahabharata and its inquiry into the human condition. I have to say thanks to quite a few scholars who have studied the Kutu tradition academically. I am not an academic person, I am only full of passion. There is Hannah de Bruyn from Holland, who is married a Kutu artist and she lives in Kanchipuram. There was before her Alf Heichelbeutel, and then there was Saskia Kersenbuch, who wrote on the tradition. But I have travelled and met many groups, and I have lived in those villages and watched this performance. So I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic scholar, but a passionate interpreter for the Kutu groups. The Mahabharata is mostly known and read as a long story of a gigantic war between the two sets of first cousins with their powerful allies arrayed on one side or the other. Evidently that it is a long story of a huge war. The Mahabharata was a masterly literary device to inquire into the roots of hatred and war and to show ahimsa, not violence, to be a foundation of happy life which all human beings aspire for. The conflicting philosophical theories in this work were designed to show that truth is many-sided and there can be no one absolute statement about it, irrespective of time, place and the person concerned, desha, kala and patra. The many stories of human relationships narrated in the Mahabharata are enacted in hundreds of villages in northern Tamil Nadu, eastern Karnataka and southern Telugu states. It was in the Mahabharata, demonstrably for the first time in human history, that the foundation of sane living, individual and social, were laid securely in the form of dharma. The question of what is dharma is answered likewise in terms of its attributes, lakshanas, which are clear, straightforward and genuinely universal. And yet, there is perhaps no other word that has been misunderstood more than dharma. It has always been translated, wrongly of course, as religion. The next picture please. It's a picture. So the great monuments at Mamallapuram, earlier it was known as Mahabalipuram. Even now people call it Mahabalipuram. Could be because of this sculpture in a cave. And this is the Trivikrama sculpture, where there are many stories hidden in this. You know, there is Jambavan up there. What is very unique is this is the story of Mahabali and how Bali was sent to Patala. Keeping this sculpture there. Can you tell me who it is? Anyone? Who can that be? Hemalata says Trishanku. By putting Trishanku there, the artist is telling us that is heaven and this is earth. You know, the range between, because there is Jambavan up there, the other leg of Vishnu is being worshipped by Brahma up there in the heavens, and Chandra and Surya are in the horizon near where Trishanku is, and Bali is down there, and then there is Shukracharya. There are so many stories here. So many stories. Is it because of this sculpture that it was called Mahabalipuram and not Mamalapuram? Because Mamalla built it. Isn't it? So, but the villagers called it Mahabalipuram. And the great monuments of Mamalapuram, earlier known as Mahabalipuram, seem to be built text of the performing and ritualistic traditions of total Tamil theatre of Terukuthu or Kattaikuthu, because I'm going one step further. Prevailing in the area for thousands of years. A copper plate inscription of 7th century found in Kurram village of Kanchipuram tell us that a Pallava king donated a grant to a village for the continuation of the Bharatam. 7th century le continuation and sonna, when could that be? It must have been performed many years before that, isn't it? So it's a 7th century king gives a grant to a village to continue the Bharatam. A vibrant and multi-leveled performance of a living Mahabharata is celebrated as a performance interpretation of the Mahabharata in hundreds of villages around Mamalapuram. Mamalapuram itself is a center because around Kanchi, the Pallavas have given grant, and it is around Kanchipuram that all these villages are, and Mamalapuram itself was a center for where Mahakuthu was being performed. The interconnectedness of the Mahabharata text and the rituals of the Kuthu are well known. This presentation would like to go further and look at the monuments at Mamalapuram as sculpted text. The Devi Mahatmyam verses inspired the great sculptural panel of Mahishasuramardini. This is amazingly beautiful, isn't it? This sculpture, amazingly beautiful. The Devi Mahatmyam forms a part of the Markandeya text. It is probably one of the oldest Puranas. Its literary style and content, wherein the early chapters read like a supplement to the Mahabharata, has led scholars to suggest it is an early composition that likely followed the epic. The first episode of the Devi Mahatmyam depicts Devi in her form as Mahamaya. Here, Devi is central and key to the creation as Mahamaya, or the great illusion power that induces Vishnu's deep slumber on the waters of the cosmic ocean. Next. This is opposite to this sculpture on the other side of the wall in the cave temple of the Mahishasuramardini cave. On the waters of the cosmic ocean, prior to the manifestation of the universe, which is a continuous cycle of manifestation, destruction, and remanifestation. So, it says the verse, Yoga Nidram Yada Vishnu Jagate Ekarnavi Krite Astirya Shesham Abhajat Kalpante Bhagavan Prabhu. At the end of the cosmic day, when the universe dissolved into primordial ocean, the blessed Vishnu stretched out on the serpent Sesha and entered into a meditative sleep, says the Devi Mahatmyam. Then two fearsome asuras, the notorious Madhu and Kaitaba, issued forth from the wax in Vishnu's ear, intent on slaying her, Brahma. Brahma could think of nothing but to awaken him, and to that he extolled Yoga Nidra, who had settled over Vishnu's eyes. Praised by gods and seers, she remained serene even while unleashing her heat. So Brahma prays to Devi, who has settled over Vishnu's eyes as Yoga Nidra, to please release herself from there. So Vishnu opens his eyes. Her lion mount, shaking in its mane in fury, stalked among the demon throngs as fire rages through a forest. But look at the sculpture. Look at it. It's so beautiful. You see, as our Keshav was talking about this morning, the composition, you see the diagonal line. The Devi team is going forward. The demon team is retreating. And the demon has, that is Mahishasura, has just seen death. And look at his idiotic expression, he doesn't know what to do. One shot, this is just prior to his destruction. And his assistant up there cannot witness it. So he's turned his face away. And look at the body of Devi. The strength and the beauty and the delicacy in that body. The beauty. You want to come here? Please come here. It's so beautiful, isn't it? And so, when you go into Mamalapuram and you go to this cave temple under the Olakanneshwara, that is the old ancient lighthouse where they used to burn oil for ships to come land. Below that, they have taken out the rock from the rock face and created this. So was Devi Mahatyam the inspiration? Because Kootu is performed for Devi. Amman. Can be a Mariamman, it is Draupadi Amman, and according to Hannah de Bruyne, Terukootu was performed only for Mariamman. In Mariamman processions, they would go. Adanalada adukku Terukootu per vechadu. The story performance is Kattai Kootu, she says. Not all artists agree with her. They says it is Kootu. Adu Terukootu, city people called it. That's all. Because they saw it in the street. So, shall we go to the next slide? All of you are very familiar with this, isn't it? Very familiar with this bas relief. One of the greatest bas reliefs. It has 242 figures. Amazing flying figures. There's not one that is static. Not even one sculpture that is static. Everything is dynamic. The Mamalapuram monuments were created by 3 generations of kings of the Pallava dynasty in 6th and 7th century CE. This was done in 640 AD. The most popular space in Mamalapuram, which was an international port city with Kanchipuram as the capital, is the unequaled masterpiece, Arjuna's Penance bas relief. The rock relief of 96 meters wide and 43 feet in height has astounding 142 figures, is only one of its kind. It is named Arjuna's Penance by the local population, but several scholars have termed it descent of the river Ganga. That is, several scholars have written that it is not Arjuna's Penance. In fact, earlier ASI had a board there, Archaeological Survey of India, saying this has nothing to do with Mahabharata. Okay, but now they have removed that. They say locals call this Arjuna's Penance. Why did the locals call it Arjuna's Penance? It's a question, isn't it? We have to understand why we have to always believe the local people. All our research, whatever scholarly writings that are there, we read that and then go to the practitioners and take that as the authentic information. Isn't it? So, why would the local population call it Arjuna's penance? Is it because Arjuna's penance is an important episode enacted as a theatrical spectacle and as a ritual in the Kuthu tradition? Could it have been performed in front of this bas relief? Arjuna, the hero in the Mahabharata story, did a pilgrimage up to the Himalayas to obtain the formidable weapon Pashupatastra from God Shiva. What is most interesting is that everything depicted here is talked about in the Tirtha Yatra Parva of the Mahabharata epic and depicts nature, Prakriti in the Himalayas, which is more than 2000 kilometers away from this spot. Arjuna narrates what he sees around in his dialogues in the Kuthu performance. Professor Balaswamy has collected real images of animals sculpted in this panel in the Himalayas and compared them. Shall we go to this is Himalayan langur. Can you imagine? In Mamalapuram, it is Himalayan langur. Next. The couple. Next. You see the deer in Mamalapuram? Next. Next. Himalayan musk deer. So the animals that are depicted are all from the Himalayas. What is the connection? This is 640 AD. Okay, so it comes in Arjuna's narration. He is going to the Himalayas and he talks about what he's seen. It comes in Arjuna's narration. So you go to a village near Kanchipuram, there will be one boy looking after goats. You ask him, Saindavan na yarpa? Yarana solunga pakkalam? Saindavan yaru? Who knows Saindavan? Tell me. Who is Saindavan? None of you? You all know Mahabharata, don't you? Yeah? Saindavan was the king of Sindhu Desha, who was the brother-in-law of Duryodhana, Dushyana's husband. And Saindava Garbhabangam is an episode in the Kuthu tradition. Okay, they will tell you the whole story. This whole thing, they will tell you. So did Arjuna's penance episode of the Kuthu tradition inspire the great bas relief? Is a question. Next. See, what happens in the Kuthu tradition is, the night Arjuna's penance episode takes place, all night he performs, okay? And early morning, he is singing Shambho Mahadeva, Shambho Mahadeva, and lights plate of lamp, and then he descends from the stage as the sun is just coming up. When I was sitting there, watching the whole night performance, the whole thing was dark. Slowly the trees are, the borders you see, and then slowly it is getting light and Arjuna gets down from the stage with the plate in his hand, and the villagers have brought a big tree that has been cut and it's 40 feet high. They have created pegs all around. What a creative way of showing Himalaya. So he starts climbing on it. He is going to meet Shiva, okay? What was very interesting that night was, he disappeared because of the fog. Okay, he's sitting on a small platform that has been built, 40 feet high, and he's still singing to Shiva. And he has carried some flowers and lime, and he throws it around. And women, because Arjuna stands for fertility and virility, they come and catch it in their saris. Okay, so they will be blessed with a nice, healthy child. Okay, so the villagers are all around. And then an actor like Kirata and his wife, they come there and they fight between the Arjunas there, and the Kirata and his wife. They are enacting the whole story, and all the villagers are involved in it completely. Villagers are shouting at Shiva, saying, உன்னோட புள்ள தானே அவன், உனக்கு தானே இது பண்றான், உனக்காக தானே, உன்னை பார்க்கறதுக்கு தான் வந்திருக்கான். All that they tell him, to Shiva. But if Arjuna misses one verse, we think they are villagers, they are not literate. You should listen to the verses they speak. High literary content and very low profane dialogues are also there at the same time. Shiva is speaking very profane dialogue, whereas Arjuna is speaking very high dialogue at that point. Then when Shiva becomes Shiva, he speaks very high literature. So there's a dialogue going on and people are all involved in the fight. And then Arjuna comes down. So this is one of the next. Let's see a little video. Both are videos. Click on the picture. One woman is possessed. Many women become possessed. Next one. Next. Click on this picture. So, episodes keep taking place. It starts with Draupadi Kalyanam, Vilvadaipu it is called. From there, every night, one episode of the Mahabharata is taking place. Morning Harikatha Kalakshapam is happening. During this, rituals are happening. One of the rituals is Virata Parvam. Okay, in Virata Parvam, that day Dalits are in charge of the whole thing. And they come and cattle are all dressed up and they bring cattle. And they come to the field outside the village and Arjuna comes there. And so the story of Brihanala, all that is told by the Harikatha people there. And this Pancha Pandava space, I was talking to some villagers and they were telling me that Ingada ella nadakum and idella nadakum, that Virata Parvam. So is this why that was called Pancha Pandava Ratha? Is a question, So the Mahabharata says all the sayings of Dharma are with a view to nurturing, cherishing, providing more amply, endowing more richly, prospering, increasing, enhancing all living beings, securing their prabhava. Therefore, whatever has the characteristic of bringing that about is dharma. That is certain. That is one, it says about dharma. Two, all the sayings of dharma are with a view to supporting, sustaining, bringing together, upholding all living beings in one word, their dharma, their dharana. Therefore, whatever has the characteristic of doing that is dharma. Whatever their dharana is, if you allow it to happen, that is dharma. That is certain. And three, all the sayings of dharma are with a view to securing for all living beings freedom from violence. Therefore, whatever has the characteristic of not doing violence is dharma. This is certain. Ahimso paramo dharma. How many times the Mahabharata says this? Now, I had gone for a play, in a village, all night performance, And some boys had drunk and they were making some little galata. And suddenly one of them came on the stage and was disrupting the play. And actually that day the sponsors were policemen of the village. The policemen were the sponsor of the food and everything that night. So I thought there would be, some kind of holding of these boys or something like that. But the boys were called on the stage and they were all given a garland and shaken hands and told, "Parpa, இந்த மகாபாரதம் நடக்கிறது சமரசத்துக்கு. நீங்க தான் பார்த்துக்கணும், நல்லா எதுவும் தப்பா நடக்காத மாதிரி நீங்க தான் பார்த்துக்கணும். You are responsible for seeing that nothing bad happens here." What else can we for I am Super Madharma. I was amazed. They said இந்த மாதிரி நடக்கும் தெரியும் எங்களுக்கு, அதனால நாங்க மாலை எல்லாம் எடுத்து வச்சிருந்தோம். We had already bought garlands and kept because we knew something like this might happen. So can you imagine? This is just 40 kilometers from here, I say. Anyway. So, next. Who knows about Aravan? You know about Aravan, yeah. Who was Aravan?
He was a tribal guy.
Who?
He was a tribal guy who was given as Bali before the war.
Yeah, but our yaar? Who was he? He was Arjuna's son. Ghatotkacha is Bhima's son. He was Arjuna and Ulupi's son. He was the son of Arjuna and Ulupi. Before the Kurukshetra war, on the 7th day, they saw that there was so much bloodshed and there was so much difficulty in the war. At that time, Krishna suggested that a human sacrifice has to be made. Or Bali, a human sacrifice has to be made. And for that, they needed a young man who had all the 32 lakshanas in the body. 32 lakshanamum correct irukkanum. Young man. So Aravan was chosen. And Aravan agreed to be sacrificed. But he told Krishna, I am not yet married and I don't know what conjugal bliss is. So I want to get married tonight. If you are going to kill me tomorrow. Question was, who will give a girl? Knowing that he will be killed tomorrow. Which girl will want to marry him? So Krishna becomes Mohini. And that night he gets married to Mohini. And the next day Aravan is beheaded. But he had also asked Krishna, I want to see Kurukshetra war. So Krishna said, your head will live and you will watch the Kurukshetra war. Your body will die. Okay, so he is beheaded the next day. And this, the head is kept by the villagers before starting the Padugalam, that is the Bharadam festival. Every year they create a new head of Aravan. They go to the potter and the potter on a certain day, time, muhurtam paathitte, he creates a head of Aravan. And this Aravan is placed in front of where Duryodhana is going to be killed. No? That Duryodhana statue. It will be installed there. Next please. I'll show you different Aravan heads. This is in Singapore Museum actually. Singapore leyum nadakirudhu because there are so many Tamils there. Next. Another Aravan. Next. Another Aravan. Next please. This actually is the source of the Kootandavar near Chennai, where all the transgenders go and get married that night to Aravan, Krishna. And the next, that is Krishna is actually facilitating this marriage. they get married to Krishna that night because Krishna is Mohini, and the next day they become widows. That ritual goes on even today. All the transgenders, they go there and they perform. This is Kootandavar, who is Aravan. Kootu is a living tradition. It is based on the Sanskrita Mahabharata of Vyasa and on the classical Tamil Bharatam of Nallapillai of 18th century, Villiputturar of 14th century, and Sendanar, date unknown. However, this tradition features a number of characters who do not appear in the classical written versions of the epic, but who play pivotal roles in the narratives. Mahabharata is so flexible. It allows a lot of upakathas to come in also. In Kootu tradition, Ponnuruvi, Karna's wife, has a very important role. Draupadi comes as Kuravanji to release, when the wax palace is burnt, Duryodhana is very happy that the Pandavas have died. And he wants to announce to the world that Pandavas have died, and he wants to very sadly do the funeral rites to the Pandavas. Draupadi goes there as a Kuravanji, goes in and to spoil this. Now, Krishna, Duryodhana's uncle or parent, Shakuni knows that Draupadi will come to ask for fresh seeds. And the seeds they say, இவங்க நிஜமா சாகல, they are somewhere, எங்கேயோ இருக்காங்க, இங்க பக்கத்துல they need some rice, some இது, அதுக்காக they will cultivate a little bit, அதுக்காக they will come asking for seeds. யாரனா வந்தாங்கன்னா you have to give boiled seeds. Duryodhana announces, if anybody comes, you have to boil the seeds and give cooked seeds தான் கொடுக்கணும்னு. She comes as Kuravanji. She goes into the palace and she sees the palm of the queen, and then she tells the whole story, everything, all details that they didn't know, the queens didn't know, Duryodhana's queens. And then Duryodhana realizes this must be Draupadi. So he arrests her. Arjuna comes as a Kuravan. He comes through the villagers all over the village looking for En Manaviya Pathingla, En Manavi Pathingla. He goes into houses and asks. And finally he comes here, and there is a big fight going on between Duryodhana and Arjuna, and he releases Draupadi, who is a Kuravanji. This Kuravanji is not in the original Mahabharata. This Kuravanji is an addition that the Kootu tradition has. So it is transformation, transgression, transcendence. Yeah. So there is also Pandava's guardian, Pottu Raja or Por Mannan. The plays often present creative and sometimes unconventional interpretation of the epic figures, which have been manipulated to fit the local cultural and social framework. Once I was watching Ramayana Kootu, okay, and Rama and Lakshmana entered, the characters entered the performing space. They entered the performing space. Suddenly the Katyakaran, who is the Vidushaka, who is connecting the play, Sutradhara, he just prostrated in front of the audience. Namaskaram pannaru. The singer, hello. The singer, the lead singer is the main guru, the teacher, Annavi. Annavi asked, என்ன பண்ற நீ? ராமர் லக்ஷ்மணன் உன் பின்னாடி இருக்காங்க, கால் காட்டுற, you are doing namaskaram to the audience. What is this? He shouted at him. That means Rama and Lakshmana are standing behind you. What he says, இவர் ராமா லக்ஷ்மணாவா என்னோட ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் ஆச்சு சுபையா ஆறுமுகம் அல்ல இப்போ தானே அங்கே பீடி குடிச்சுட்டு நின்றுட்டு இருந்தா. ராமர் எங்கே இருக்காரு? ராமரோட கதை எங்கே நடக்கிறது? இங்கே உட்காந்துருக்காங்களே ஜனங்க, அவங்க மனசுல தானே நடக்கிறது. இவங்க வெறும் ஆக்டர்ஸ் தானே. He said, these kind of fantastic things keep coming up in a play. You know, he said, they're only actors. But where is Rama and Lakshmana happening in the minds of the people who are sitting there? So I am doing namaskaram to that Rama and Lakshmana who is in the mind of these people. Can you imagine what a creative, this is Rasa theory all put together. Isn't it? And just like the Mahabharata, that discussed everything in relational terms, because there is nothing black and white in the Mahabharata. It's all relational. Kuthu also looks at everything relationally and in the pair of opposites. A story that discusses the gore of the war in minute details keeps repeating ahimso paramo dharmaha resoundingly. These three words in the Mahabharata are spoken numerous times in different voices and in different contexts. Non-violence is discussed with every kind of violence around. Truth is discussed in the midst of a great deal of falsehood and lies. The need for control of one's tongue is discussed at the same time as practically everyone, the very best among the humans are trading with each other, wounding and nasty words. Freedom of fear is discussed when fear takes possession of human minds and hearts and stalks everywhere. The Mahabharata traces the main root of violence to ignorance. Violence, it says, comes from one's ignorance about one's relationship with oneself and the other. So when we say, the Kuthu, there are villages, I take artists to schools in urban places just to tell them, don't ever imagine that because they don't speak English, they are not as smart as you. Because they are living in a village, they are not as smart. They must be smarter than you many times. And so, whatever the situation, you have to be relational and you have to give respect to everything and everyone. I'll come to the next one, please. This is my time at that. Okay. This is my very favorite picture. Sculpture. There is not a space there. How did they make a Kiratarjuna like that? You know? And scholars say that Kiratarjuniam sculpture in the Kailasanatha temple in Kanchipuram was inspired by Bharavi's Kiratarjuniam. My contention is that it was inspired by the Kuthu tradition. Because look at the costume, look at the headgear. The one that Arjuna is wearing like this is Shikareki, and the one that Shiva is wearing represents the Himalayas. Next, please. Next. This is the current costume of the Kuthu artist. And I am not, as I have told you already, I am not a scholar, but a passionate lover of the arts. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much. Actually, there is one video, last one.
Yeah.
It's only a few. See, at the end of Padukalam, the kalam is called Padukalam, okay? Where this is the Yuddha finishing. The actor Bhima goes and strikes on the thigh of the statue, and the actor Duryodhana feigns death. And that body is taken to Draupadi Amman. The Draupadi Amman icon is brought out, and they say, Govinda, Govinda, here, we have finished him. Amma, please don't be angry with us. They take, let's see. the actor Draupadi and the icon Draupadi tie their hair up. The yellow saree is actor Draupadi, the icon Draupadi is there. Thank you.
There was a wonderful eye-opener about this Tirukuttu, which we normally, like she said, most of us, most of the people, the translators, generally translate it as street play. Okay. Anyway, and look at it. She says, "I'm not an academic scholar." That. Can you believe it? But one thing we definitely have to believe, she is a passionate interpreter of this Tirukuttu tradition. And that, we definitely accept. That we know. But not a scholar is something, we would like to question. And she has really brought out, her topic itself was this tradition of Tirukuttu as a built text. And she showed how the monuments at Mamallapuram are not only built texts, there is also sculpted text from the Devi Mahatmyam. She showed that monument of Mahishasura Madhuri to show how it is a sculpted text. And question and bringing in the tradition of the people of all segments of the society to do this Tirukuttu day after day and only in the nights till dawn is wonderful. That naturally, during the day you can do whatever you wanted, but once night falls, let us all get together and concentrate on the higher being and the tradition, and it is being carried on, and that is what she was saying. The Tirukuttu tradition lives till date thanks to these people, thanks to these locals who have their interpretations, and they have actually preserved these local traditions very well. And of course, even when she posed these questions to all of us, who is Saindava, who is Sarvan? Oh yeah, we have to go back to study the Mahabharata a little bit better. And then she finishes with the example when she saw the Ramayana Kuthu. Where is Rama and Lakshmana? They are all in the minds of the audience. And she connected it to the Rasa theory very neatly. Yes, because that's what the whole thing is about. That art is all about the Sahradayatvam. And she has really evoked that Sahradayatvam with her presentation today. Thank you very much, Dr. Jivika.
Miss Nancy Secrets to give a token of her appreciation.